Good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this unit or this chapter on business information management. All right, this is for my Introduction to Business Management and Administration 7th grade courses at our local school and for Lake City Middle School. And so the information you see here will be delivered for that group of students. However, if you have stumbled upon this through YouTube, etc., you might find that there is information that you could use here for whatever work you are working for, either at middle school or at the high school level. Now, I will be presenting information that will also be kind of conceptually for college students a little bit, but again, this is geared towards middle school students in the 7th and 8th grade. So let's go ahead and get started for those students. Business information management. I want you to think about what information might be used in a business, okay? And that could be anything. That could be if you're in a grocery store, how many gallons of milk are on the shelf right now and when are they set to expire? That's information. If you're in the business of making something, what is the process of making it? What materials are needed? What are the raw materials that are needed for it, or the basic materials needed for it? That is information, okay? I need to send a message to somebody, right? You are sending data. You are sending information. Now think about how information is stored and accessed in a lot of modern business. If you're thinking electronically, you are right. Now, that doesn't mean that all businesses do things electronically, because there are still those who rely on traditional printouts and so on and so forth. And there's nothing wrong with that. But in information management, we're going to look at this through the lens of computers, computer information and data. Okay, so we're going to focus on that. In other words, if you are interested in the world of information technology, you will be working in information management. All right, so here we go. Our big ideas for this unit is, what is a business information manager and what are they responsible for? Okay, pretty simple, all right? What does business information management oversee? And we're going to bring that up here in the presentation. I can't really talk with you because you're on one side. It's more of a one-way conversation, so I'm going to talk at you. All right, so there we go. All right, so here we go with the next idea. So, yeah, we're going to be able to figure out what a business information manager might be. Now, if you're thinking, Mr. C, I want to work on computers and I want to work in the world of IT, well, that's overseen by the business information manager, okay? All the servers, all the computer parts, all the networking devices, that all deals with information management, because that's information being sent and transmitted digitally, okay? Now, if you are working in a business that uses a lot of printouts and so on and so forth, a lot of paperwork, then that's fine. That's also a form of information management, okay? And then information managers are responsible to make sure that all the data is being sent and received as needed or as warranted. All right, so my essential questions for students in the 7th grade, we're going to look at the business information pathway and the career pathway, all right? So what is that information management career pathway? What might it look like? We're going to look at that, okay? What is some basic terms and concepts for the field? That's really important. What are some possible careers? We're going to look at that. What are some common characteristics for those in the world of information management? We're going to look at that. What are some changes in the field and how is it evolving? Well, that's an easy one. Is information evolving the way it's being sent and transmitted? Yeah, it sure is, right? The way these things communicate now compared to the way they communicate several years ago is different, okay? A lot more data being sent wirelessly based off of the demand to do more with this, right? And then what are some skills needed or required to successfully enter the career, all right? We're going to look at that. All right, so what are the core responsibilities of an information manager, okay? An information manager. Now, just think about what we were talking about, or we brought up about our general managers, right? We said that the general manager might have to think like a information manager, right? But we're going to look specifically here at the world of information management. So these are the core responsibilities for someone in information management or acting as an information manager, right? They are responsible for acquiring, retaining, archiving, and disposing of information. Okay, let's go over these a little bit in more detail. All right. Acquisition, that means you are getting the information. Okay, and that information can either be input, gathered, stored, etc. Okay, you are getting the information, you're collecting the data, you're acquiring the information for the business. Okay, retention, that means you are holding on to the information, figuring out, okay, what information is important, what information is not important, what can we get rid of, and what do we want to hold on to. Archiving, not archives. Archives are something that pirates put on their potatoes. Okay, yeah, that's not archives, that's archiving. Archiving means you store the information. Okay, so think about when somebody says, I'm going to go down and check at the archives. Well, the archives means the older documents that have been stored and put away, right? So you archive the data, and then when you're no longer using the data, you're disposing of that data, okay? Or disposing of the information, okay? Pretty easy there. You're getting rid of the information. How are you going to get rid of it? And that's actually kind of a complex idea, especially when you're talking about servers and storage and so on and so forth. Recently, it went from a lot of paperwork and files and data on sheets and documents to just data, numbers, bits, bytes of information being sent and transmitted to computers, right? And from computers and stored on computers, right? So it's the flow of information within the business itself, right? How does the information get to somebody that needs to know it? Example, you might have an accounting department that might need to have access to all the accounting data, all right? So how are they going to access that data? Which software are they going to use? What are they going to think about using? How are they going to get it? Does it need to be secured? Okay. If somebody's developing something in research and development and it's top secret, how are you going to keep that information safe? That's something that the business information manager might be concerned with. All right. Now, this might include information technology or IT. All right, that is the world that deals with the PCs, the smartphones, and the networking of the computers and the business. It might be the mailroom. The mailroom is where physical documents are sent out and sent either in the business itself, called interdepartment, okay, or interbusiness, or it might be the information that's sent out and about through shipping, receiving, so on and so forth. It might be dealing with telecommunications. In other words, how are you going to have phones set up in the business? Are you a bigger business? You're going to use voice over IP protocols and internet telephones? Are you going to have hard lines ran? Or are you going to rely on smartphones? If so, what kind of infrastructure is available for these things? Okay. Are you going to have more Wi-Fi access, less Wi-Fi access? How are you going to secure it? There's a lot of things that an information manager needs to concern with. Additionally, where are you going to store the information? And how is he going to find the information that's relevant? Like databasing and keeping the information stored and secured. Databasing is huge. A lot of modern games, especially online games, use databases to track their customers who are playing the games, right? And they keep that information stored on a separate database. What's their progress? How many items do they have, right? That's all secured on a database, okay? So think of a database like a mass storage of information, okay? There is a big database on all the Google accounts and customers, right? Because you could track the information about what they like buying, what their political preferences are, to, where do they prefer to shop, what's their favorite baseball team or football team, etc., right? That information is available and out there. So how are you going to keep it secure? How are you going to keep people from finding out what that information is, okay? So which information and data is important? That's what the business information manager is responsible for, okay? So each business is unique, okay? Each business is important, okay? Now, think about this, okay? My brother runs a mechanic and auto parts store in Live Oak, okay? He keeps his information about all of his merchandise, how many quantities of something he has, on the computer system, okay? Then, upon the computer system, if he needs to know he has something, he can look it up. How much has he paid for it? If he sells it for a certain price, is he going to make a profit on it? Does it make sense to sell it at that certain price if somebody's wanting a discount? That kind of thing. That information might be important, okay? Additionally, okay, information might be important about making a transaction happen. In other words, somebody wants to use their credit card to make a purchase happen. How are you going to secure that information and make sure that the credit card company sends the right amount of money to the business to ensure that the items were paid for based off the customer's request? Okay, that information has to be secured. Okay, and then you have things like employee pay and employee data information. Does that need to be secured? Well, if you follow along with human resource management, you're going to see, yeah, that's important, right? Maybe customer transactions or logistics, meaning the shipping and receiving of something, or the way that an item gets from point A to point B, right? Maybe you got product information, research and design. Each business is different, right? All that is information, okay? And then you're regulating information, regulating the information is extremely important. In other words, controlling the information is extremely important, right? Do you want people to know where your employees live and what their personal contact number is? You may not want that information out there, okay? So yeah, there's certain information that we have access to as a consumer public that the businesses might say, yeah, we want you to have access to it. And there's certain information that they don't want you to have access to it. Information managers control that process. All right, so this is big. This is actually a college level concept right here. And I'm going to teach you guys about it right now. Okay. So this is the information management cycle. By the way, this one I appear on a test. Okay. Information management cycle. Okay. So information management controls three key entities. All right. They control people. They control the process. They control technology. Let me repeat that. They control people as far as what people can access. They control the process, how people access the information, and they control the technology. In other words, which technology can people use to access information, and what's the process that follows, right? It's the information management cycle. So let's look at the idea a little bit deeper, all right? So workers and managers or customers use technology to access the information, okay? That's easy, okay? So people, okay, workers and managers use technology to access the information. They might have to follow a process to access that information, or the technology that they use might have to follow a process to access that information, right? Example, if I had voice over internet phones, right, and I had each office or each desk had its own phone, okay, what would the process of that technology use to make a call? That makes sense, okay? Or if somebody like the manager wanted to use a tablet at the premise on the business, okay, what would the process of that tablet be to access the information on that technology, right? Person wants to access it, wants to use the technology, so what's the process? Or people want to access the information, what's the process that they use and which technology can they access it with, right? Now, the technology is a simple tool, right? It just simply receives data, transmits data, okay? Transmits and receives, right? But the process by which that happens is really, really important. In other words, the business information management controls who has access, what they have access to, and how do they access it. Really, really important concept, all right? So, I kind of hope that makes sense for everybody, right? So the core responsibilities of information managers, and we're going to wrap this lesson up here in just a few minutes. Information managers then are responsible for acquiring, retaining, archiving, and disposing of information. Mr. C, you just said that. Yeah, so I'll probably be expecting that on a test or exam somewhere, right? And then that includes things like data acquisition and data mining, okay? There is a lot of data out there. Mr. C has a favorite color or two, or color combination. Mr. C has an education and went to school somewhere. What information is important, okay? The information is out there. Now, do my employers, care that I like certain color combinations? Maybe, maybe not, okay? Maybe they need to know my background more than they need to know my favorite color combination or my favorite food. All of the information is out there, right? You just got to figure out what's important, all right? It's called data acquisition and data mining. In other words, the exploration of data in large quantities to figure out what is useful, Okay. Yeah, that's kind of a neat concept, right? So maybe someone is in research and development. In other words, they're developing new products or developing new things, right? So maybe they're developing knowledge or exploring some ideas and concepts. Okay. I'll give you a great example. Okay. In the world of marketing, okay, and growth, businesses will look at certain markets to see, okay, do we want to put a store here? And they look at the overall community. Okay. Great example of that. Mercedes-Benz. Okay. Mercedes-Benz says, hey, this is a community that needs to be served because they bring in per family, per capita, X amount of dollars, or there's a certain percentage of the population that brings a certain amount of money in. So we think that customers will come to the store and do business with the store on a regular basis. But they may look at other communities and say, probably not really our market here, until they grow a little bit. Okay. So thinking about that, is Lake City an area that you could think of that maybe Mercedes-Benz would want to come into? Probably not, okay? Probably not, at least right now. That might change in the future, but probably not, all right? That's why there's a Mercedes-Benz dealership in Tallahassee, in Gainesville to our south, and Jacksonville, right? But in Lake City, not so much. Why? Because those areas can sustain it. Lake City, not so much, all right? Maybe it'll help you with building and creating and implementing stuff, right? Building ideas or building new businesses or building some new idea, creating an idea or implementing an idea. And for marketing, we just talked about how that might be important. Maybe you want to create a database and look at information on something, right? That's all about data mining and data acquisition. And then you want to make sure that you're maintaining and keeping the important information available. That is really important, especially in the world of information technology and business information management. All right. And then once the information is no longer needed or required, okay, you got to figure out how to get rid of it. Okay. And get rid of it safely and securely. Okay. So that's really an important concept too. I'll give you an example. Okay. Let's say somebody had top secret information on a hard drive that was only known within the business and the hard drive goes bad. Do they just simply chuck the hard drive into the trash can? I hope not, because that information could still be recovered, right? Even if the hard drive is faulty, that information could still be read in bits and pieces, right? So you need to physically destroy the hard drive. How are you going to destroy it? How are you going to have it shredded, degaussed, or demagnetized? Yeah, all that's important, okay? So yeah, remove the data once the information is fulfilled or no longer needed or warranted. All right, so that brings me to a couple of different things here. These questions should be answered pretty easily here. This one was repeated twice, so you should be able to fill in the blanks here. This one here, that's up to you. Just tell me why, okay? And then don't forget about the information management circle and what is data mining. So that brings me to the end of this particular lesson. And then in our next lesson, we'll look at a few more concepts and we'll look at the career and the career pathway and the education that somebody might need to follow the world of business information management.